Okay, Frank,
okay, this is the Policy Review Committee meeting for Wednesday, November 6, 2013. In attendance is Frank Sermonaro, Dr. Otto, and Andrew Basil. Just take it away.
All right. The first policy that's here is, if you remember last time we met, and I had proposed to the board to put together a draft policy to kind of put a couple fences around the booster and support efforts. The suggestion was made to go back to those groups to get input. So to that end, last Tuesday, I think it was, we had about a 2-hour meeting, and representatives from the PTC, the sports boosters, and the music boosters were in the room with us. And I think we came up with a much better draft of what we had, and one that they said they could all support and understand the need for. So it's not technically in a first reading. The only thing that's really left to do on it is get this committee's input, and also, if you look on the first page, we didn't technically define the words internal audit, but I'll get Brian Subers to help me. Really, an internal audit is nothing more than an internal review of your financial statement. So we can put some language in there that will just make everybody understand what that is. So if you had any comments on that, and if you think it's okay, we could move it forward for a first reading, or just let it sit as a draft.
I'm good with it.
I actually had a couple of comments on it.
And we did have one of the ladies that was at the meeting just walked in.
The other one's coming as well.
Okay, so we do have some other representatives. Lynn Lamont is here from the Music Boosters, and somebody else is coming. So go ahead, Andrew.
Let's see here. To be honest with you, I think I like the original draft better.
Okay.
And I'm bouncing back and forth between the two, and I guess what I would have preferred was if there were changes to the original one that we had looked at, last month, that those had been sort of redlined or edited and left on the revised draft. So I think it makes it difficult to go back and forth now and see what the old one had on it and what's been taken off versus what's here now. It's very difficult to see now what's missing or how things have been edited. But let me just start off with line number 19 on the first page. I think it's just a grammatical comment where it says any event, competition, or activity that involves district students.
Yes, that should be There are a couple typos, but if you want to point them out, that's fine.
And then district students supervised by district coaches, advisors, and or I would put personnel, but add or there. Let's see, I noted.
What was it that disappeared that you would like to see maybe back in?
Well, I'm going to get to those.
Okay.
So let me I got to make these a little bit bigger so I can see them both on the same screen at the same time. So let's see, under authority, it's responsibility of the board and superintendent and the board to recognize school-related organizations and improve their activities. Got it. I see what looks like was stricken from the on the new one, if that's what everybody's looking at, lines 29 and 30 on the first page. They are that's the first sentence of a larger paragraph. And what was taken out of that paragraph was the schedule of contest rules for participation, methods for earning letters, and all other criteria dealing with inter-school programs are under the jurisdiction of the Daniel Boone Area School District Administration.
Right.
Why was that taken out?
I don't know, ladies. Can you help me with that when we...
What section is that?
This is
the one about the letters.
Section 3?
Section 3, it's the second paragraph now.
I have the original. We took out all that. I thought we said some of it was redundant and that...
We never did it. I think it was because we never
wasn't done
had
by Brewster.
It's nothing that Boosters ever was involved in. That's what I
I know, but this is delineating, this is my perspective on this. This is delineating once and for all whose responsibility these things are. And just because it wasn't the district's responsibility, the Boosters' responsibility, it always was the district's responsibility. I think what we're doing is we're just affirming that in writing that that is and always will be the district's responsibility. Just because if there's any kind of blurring of the lines later on,
okay,
policy that they can go back to. That's the only reason why I'm bringing it up.
Okay, we'll add that back in, Andrew. What else do you have?
Oh, I see where that was. Yep. Okay, I have the original in front of me too.
All right. So then you get into the paragraph after that, and the first 3 lines there on page 30, or it's line 32 through 36 on the first page, is essentially the middle of the paragraph from the other page. And I guess what it says here is the old one said, sanctioning of booster/support organizations must be obtained annually in August of each year from the school board, from the board of school directors. Here it says approval. I don't know if that's...
Well, let me. That's an interesting one that you would bring up. Scott Potts was in attendance as well at the meeting, and for some reason he had a strange concern. I didn't really quite understand it, but with the word sanctioning. So we kind of were playing wordsmithing at that. I don't think the intent of what was originally there has been removed. I think at the end of the day, the process still requires board approval. It was really a wordsmithing exercise more than anything.
Okay.
I mean, and again, it's up to the committee if you want to put that back. This is just the feedback that came from the committee that met last Tuesday night.
So read it. What did it say before?
It said sanctioning as opposed to approval. I have it.
And the only reason why I bring that up is, and I don't have a Webster's in front of me at the moment, but words are important, and I don't know from a legal perspective. Remember, this wasn't our policy to begin with. It was something we got from Denny, from his school district, and I don't know whether somebody... attorneys parse words all the time.
Right.
And whether sanctioning is a more appropriate term to use than approval.
We'll see.
I think it's a stronger word to use than approval.
Right.
I think when you sanction something, you are endorsing it as opposed to just letting it go through. You're stepping up and saying, "Look,
right."
Well, if you don't endorse it, why would we approve it? If we didn't want to sanction it, why would we approve it? And
it could just be. I'm not making a big deal out of it. Approval, sanction. I just don't know whether there's a legal difference. That's all.
I'll find out if there's a legal difference between those two words from Brian.
No problem.
We talked. I mean, ladies, you can feel free to chime in. You were there.
I care for approval more than sanction.
He cares for sanction more than approval. Right? Is that what you asked, or what did you?
No. I said I care.
I
like approval in there rather than sanction.
So let's not get hung up on that. We can work through that part. It doesn't change the intent.
I think that's. I don't think that's anything for us to spend a lot of time on. The other thing that Mr. Mike Wolf had brought up.
He's here now. He walked in.
Okay, good. I think is on the second page. Lines. Oh, I don't have a reference line on the second page. But it's like the first paragraph of the guidelines. It talks about officers of a booster support organization directly linked to student activities must be the parent or legal guardian of the student currently involved in that activity.
Yeah, we removed that.
You did?
Yeah, Sandy sent out a second edition. We had forgotten to take that out. We kind of agreed we didn't need that.
Okay.
Do you want us to read the paragraph?
No, I know.
Well, I just think it. You wouldn't want to be limiting.
No, we don't. We took it out.
That's what we asked for.
Okay.
Yeah, and the committee that met last week didn't want that in there. I had just forgotten when Sandy and I put together the new one to yank that out.
Okay.
So that's, at least in the draft, that's not supposed to be there.
All right. Okay, so moving on to the paragraph after that, it lists a couple of items that the board requires from each 503C, an annual report, a list of the current officers and their contact information, current statement of bylaws and objectives of the group.
Right.
I guess what I was wondering in there is, aside from an annual report, what does the annual report include?
It's that attachment that's on the policy.
Okay, so I would like to see a budget on there.
Why?
I would like to see one of the things that we get from the Boosters group is a budget for the year. How much money are they anticipating, raising? What's their revenue stream, and what's their proposed expenditures for a given year?
We discussed that, and since the booster presidents are here, I'll let them respond to that. The cat has their tongue at the moment. I'm not.
I thought that we weren't trying to get into line by line items from any of the organizations, but the overall picture, what might be coming in, what might be going out. We could even submit our Form 990. I mean, that pretty much lists everything that you just asked about. Our budget process goes on for 3 months at our meetings. I mean, we talk all that through with all of our members. We vote on it. We get approval from our members on it. I'm not sure what else.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is I don't think the board wants. I don't think from the school district's perspective we want to get our hands into, how your budget is created and that sort of thing. But clearly. I think one of the objectives of this policy is to try to clear the air with the public on what's being spent on these different activities, right? So whether it's cheerleading or it's band or I don't know what golf, there seems to be a lot of confusion out there, at least in the general public, as to what role the school district plays, how much money the school district is spending on these activities, how much money the boosters organizations are spending to support these same activities, and then what's going on at the tail end of this with these, these students sort of run or coached run, I don't know whether they're sort of fundraising activities that go on all year round, and where do those monies fit into this, and how those monies being spent. And so I guess it'd be helpful that if the board is and the district is reviewing these things, so we're in the loop on what's happening with these activities that we're responsible for. It'd be nice to know, okay, well, look, here's the budget. As soon as you guys are done, I guess, putting your budget together, would it be all right for the district to have a copy of the budget so we understand this is what you're planning on spending money on for the year. This is what this is the fundraising that you're going to anticipate doing. This is what you're planning on spending the money on, and this is how it's going to impact our programs.
In this pause, I just want to let you know, Andrew, that Monica just came in.
Okay.
So go ahead. I can see somebody wants to say something.
Well, I think you will have a better feel. Also, being that I know it's later in the policy, you've asked for approval on larger purchases. So you should certainly know what they are. I mean, come to meeting, get a budget.
Our meeting, yeah.
It's not.
This is all public information, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all. If you come to a meeting.
But once your budget is approved by your members, can you just forward a copy to the school district?
Yeah, you just want the budget.
To whom?
Well, that would be part of this. That would go in this paragraph.
Right. So when we meet in August.
So when you have that by that October deadline, and then part of the annual sanctioning.
Does that suffice, Andrew? They forward us a copy of their budget once it's approved?
Yeah, I would think if you're providing an annual report, typically, look, I'm just used to looking at annual reports for organizations, and as part of any annual report,
it's a different annual report than what you're thinking.
These are our activities, this is what we're planning on spending our money on, this is what we did last year, and then there's always a budget as part of an annual report. I was just asking the question, is there a budget as part of this annual report, and if there isn't, can we have a copy of the budget that you guys approve every year?
Well, when you look at the annual report that we're asking them to submit, is that an attachment to the policy?
Yeah, I have to scroll through to that, and
because that has on it copies of their bylaws, bank statements,
Quite honestly, I work with annual
bank-
reports at work too, and the term in this draft policy annual report is very different than any other annual report that I'm familiar with. So I think the term annual report here is throwing it off a little bit.
All right, then I'd just like to add budget as part of those list of things that we're asking that the Brewster's organizations provide to the district is a budget. Just so I don't know how the district can be in the loop and understand what purchases are coming in the year if we don't have a copy of a budget.
I know it's late.
No, go ahead.
Is this?
No, Andrew was just, we summarized, we kind of threw the first page and we put something back in, and then we're on the second page, and Andrew is saying, in the paragraph, if you look at on page 2, where the board is requiring from the group certain things, he wants to add in the word budget from them, which is currently not in here. So that's what we're discussing right now. So what's
And
your...
I think that's where the parents get, like, from the conversations I've had with parents, is they don't, maybe they don't go to the meetings, or they don't understand it, but their question is, what are we paying for? And if we had a budget there, it would said, and what didn't fall on the budget, like, oh, you're paying for uniforms. But if uniforms don't show up on the budget, then was that something added in later? You know, how, I mean, those are the questions I always get is, what are we paying for? So
I don't know why those people don't just ask the coaches. That's always my question when you say that. People don't know. Ask, email, call. Communication is very easy these days. So when you say that, it always throws me off.
It's not the nature of people.
It's not.
Yeah, I mean,
ask. It's just fine. Okay.
Well, how many people do you see here tonight?
Yeah, but
Right.
I don't know. I always know where
these
my
people
money
we're
is
talking
going to.
about we represent.
Yep.
And there they are, right there.
Yep. Yeah.
So we can't.
Let for the record show there's no one there.
There's no one here.
person in the audience.
Well, we're here. We actually belong over there.
No, we know that. We know, no.
Yeah, it is.
But your point is there's 3 people from the public when there could be, who's doing all the asking. I get what your point is.
Right.
So let me.
Key really.
No, go ahead.
Sure, isn't it really the key? The information is available if they want to go have the effort to find it. It's available.
It's available.
Attend a meeting. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't subsidize somebody who's lazy, doesn't want to make the effort to come out to get informed, and then come back and complain about they didn't know. And I don't think that's right.
No, it's not right. It's not right. But I don't quite understand the issue. Maybe I'm just missing it of just putting it out there. If it's already out, is it out there as public record?
It's our budget is out there.
Okay, so just as part of practice, you share a copy with us. I know we can come to the meeting and get it, but if you could just forward a copy to us. If anyone has anything to complain about, it's all there. It's all transparent. It's all there.
In the August meeting or in October?
I would say
you
add
finalize it, right?
I would add that by this October 31st date, because that's what makes sense.
Well, hold on. Can I step in here for a second?
Sure.
Okay, so one of the things I was going to ask is why October? Why not August? I mean, if the board, I'm just trying to put things together here. I'm a board member. I'm trying to understand what the Boosters are going to be doing this year, how their activities are going to be impacting the school district's sports or athletic programs and music programs. And I've got to approve those organizations in August. Wouldn't I want to see all these documents, the bylaws, the objectives?
I don't know. I'm guessing that the October 31st date is there because it coincides with that new regulation regarding reporting for Title IX. The deadline for that submission is in October.
Yeah, I'm just saying, but then wouldn't we want to see these things?
You can see it earlier if you wanted, I would assume. And
I don't know when the Boosters organizations or the TTC or whoever does their budgets, but I'm just sort of saying that if we're going to approve it as a board, we're going to vote on something as a board, approve it as an organization. It's not necessarily a Boosters organization. It could be any organization that's supplementing, or supporting the school in some way, then I would think that we'd want to see all the documents that are related to that organization prior to approval for that particular year. I mean, if you approve something and then you don't get the documents until October, and you see something in there that isn't right, you've already approved them. And I don't want the boosters organizations that are sitting in a room right now to think I'm pointing a finger at them. I'm not. I'm just saying that this policy is going to apply to any organization going forward that's going to be supporting the school. So it's not just the people that are in the room. It's anybody that could potentially be.
I don't think the dates really. It's kind of to answer your direct question. The dates there, I think, to go inside with Title IX. So could it be earlier? Sure. I don't think that's an issue.
I know the music has new elections each May, and then we have a transition period to the end of our fiscal year in June, and then we work on our budget. It could be June, July. It may not be finished until mid-August, mid to late August.
Right.
So I know there's an August 31st date in here as well.
Well, it would be in time for the board's second meeting in August, which is usually somewhere in the 20s of August. It's always in late August. It's always the fourth Monday.
Okay.
So it's going to have to be somewhere in the late 20s.
Right.
So to fit with that, if that's the time.
So we'll make that by September,
Make it work.
by August 15th, August 1st, I don't know, August 15th.
You just put it by the August voting meeting. I mean, and whenever the voting meeting falls, I mean, that's when we're going to be voting on this thing. We need to have the information prior to that.
All right, that wording's in there.
Well, then that's July.
August, the last Friday, the last Monday of
The August voting meeting.
Right, the August voting meeting, but you have to advertise it in the beginning of August, so that means they have, if you're, I'm backing up, if you would have to have that information to the district by the end of July, so it could be posted for the committee of the whole.
You don't have to post the
No, you don't have
detail
that
of
for
the
the
budget.
committee. You don't have to
post you're discussing it.
You don't have to have
Or voting on it.
The attachment you would need just before we would go
So you would
that
just
Thursday.
advertise that you're going to discuss
Right.
it, but you don't actually
You don't have to have the
physical
data.
document.
Correct.
I don't think you have to have the data.
No, you don't have to have that there.
A month prior.
Okay.
We would need it technically by the Friday before to post it as an attachment.
Understood.
So that still gives them the time that they need.
So what date were you thinking? I'm sorry.
The August voting meeting.
The August voting meeting, which is the last Friday,
Fourth Monday.
last Monday
The last Monday
of every month, right? So
I
last
won't say
Monday.
the last Monday in case there's five. The fourth Monday.
So you would want.
Oh, right. Okay. You're
Sometimes
right.
there are 5 Mondays.
You're right. It's the fourth Monday in August.
So as we turn in before that.
Well, we would need it
By that date.
And you would want to
sometime
meet us
like the
before.
Friday, technically, so we can get it posted. We don't have to post it really until the day of, but if you've heard members of the public, they like when we get things posted early. So technically, by like that Friday, say the meeting was August 28th, we would ask for it the 25th, 3 days early, so we could get it posted.
So it should be turned in by the Friday before the last.
Yeah, but we're not going to say that here.
The fourth Monday.
No, just so we can put it in our
Yes.
notes,
Yeah.
because
Yes.
I'm I say I'm
Understood.
graduating, but I'm leaving. So
No, that would
the next
be,
group would
yes.
be a date.
It would be the
Yes.
Friday before the fourth Monday of August.
That's really granular.
That's the third Friday.
Thanks. There you go. That makes it less granular. Should we move on?
Okay.
See, the only thing that's
Sure.
Wait a minute.
it's odd for sports teams because you have spring sports teams who won't actually do.
You got to give the best that you have.
Budget.
It's the best that
So
you
just
have.
the best that they have, because like if a rule changes and suddenly they can't wear a uniform, you know what I mean?
It-
so then
it
you
changes.
would just
Even
Yeah,
board
it changes.
budgets
Don't
change.
get hung
Okay,
up
it's not
on it.
like-
It's,
okay.
Don't get hung up on
Okay.
it. It's
the best that
It's the best
that
you
you
have.
have at that particular time.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, look, I mean, a budget is just a guideline, right?
Right.
And, no budget is ever the actual numbers. I mean, the actual numbers always change depending on circumstances. So I think all we're trying to do is just get a better, from a board perspective, you guys remember the conversation we had a month ago. I think we're just trying to, the purpose of this is to get the board in the loop with what the boosters organizations are doing and vice versa. It seems to me that right now everything's been siloed. And you guys are aware of what you're doing, but the board isn't aware of what you guys are doing. And maybe vice versa. You're not aware of what the board's thinking, what the board's doing, and you're making decisions, absent that information. And by forcing our organizations to come together and share information, I think it's going to make life a lot easier for all of us. And quite frankly, it's going to provide a lot more transparency to the public, which I think is something else that we're hearing about. So it's all going to be good. I just think we need to figure out how we're going to work this together, and so this is the process. If we're ready to move on, I had a couple other questions on some of these other paragraphs. Okay, so the following paragraph on the revised sheet that I have here says the purchase of equipment and apparel in excess of $1,000, et cetera, et cetera. The old paragraph said approval of the purchase of equipment and apparel by a Brewster support organization for a district team or group must be obtained in advance from superintendent or designee. That whole thing was stricken. What was the thought process behind that?
I'll let them speak to that.
If you wanted to approve every purchase, we would be inundating you with just silly things like, we're buying spikes for cross country, so the coach is spending $35 there, or we're buying
water for the marching band.
Yeah.
So we set a dollar limit.
That way you're looking at big purchases. You don't want to look at every single, you shouldn't be approving every single purchase.
Or gas for the van. We didn't think that kind of fell under what it was we're trying to accomplish.
Because that's not what you're trying to accomplish. You're not looking to approve everything that we spend, right? You want to know
I don't think that the board is looking to get into a line item by line item, approval of every single purchase. That when you guys listed for us before, you guys are buying baseballs and all kinds of things. But correct me if I'm wrong. Aren't you running those purchases by somebody, a coach, or
the coach.
Athletic facilitator?
That comes for them.
That coach or athletic facilitator is our designee, correct?
Okay, then I was taking it differently. I was taking it as if you wanted an administrator to approve all of those purchases.
Well, it's the superintendent or the superintendent designee.
Well, there still is the word designee in the policy.
Okay, so that would be like
the designee is going to say, okay, well, maybe it's the building principal, maybe it's, I don't know, it's the facilities director, whoever domain those purchases would fall under. I think it's important to have that language there, because at the end of the day, if I'm a parent and I'm sending my kid to the school and they're using equipment that's quote-unquote provided by the school district or sanctioned by the school district in some way, and somebody gets hurt because ultimately they're going to go to the school district and say, well, that helmet failed, or those, I don't know what it could be. I mean, I'm just throwing something out there. And if the district says, well, wait, we didn't approve this, now where are we? You know what I mean? Like, I can just see an attorney having a heyday with this. So I think it's important that we have a designee there, that whatever it is you guys are buying, our coaches or our whoever it is, band director or somebody is saying, yeah, that's good. Great, let's move on.
We're already approved by the coaches, so they're the ones to approve our purchases.
Is that all right?
So can we just add that wording to it if that's what's being done already?
I think if you add that line back, that was in the original version, and so I think it's important to have that in here.
So are you talking about that whole paragraph?
No, I don't think the whole paragraph. I think that whole paragraph was kind of redundant, because it basically said the approval for purchase of equipment and apparel by a Brewster's organization for a district team or group must be obtained in advance by the superintendent or his designee. And then it says approval for personalized items and services provided. I don't know what the difference is between I'm assuming personalized items and services are what, jackets and with somebody's name on it or something like that?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't quite get that either.
That just seemed to me to be basically the same thing. So I don't know if the whole paragraph needs to be put up, but certainly the first line.
What about, so you think that dollar limit thing was?
Well, I mean, I don't have a problem with the dollar limit thing, but if you want to include the dollar limit thing after that first sentence, you say the purchase of equipment and apparel in excess of $1,000 must include advance notification. I would say notification and approval. And do we want an aggregate in there? You know what I mean? Like a lot of times when we have contracts that are written up, particularly when we're doing asset management for a third party, we have something similar language in this. Purchases up to a certain dollar figure you can make on behalf of an organization with regularity. But one thing that can happen sometimes is an organization can do not just limit their purchases to less than $1,000, but do 100 of them at less than $1,000. You know what I'm saying? And you end up spending $100,000 on something, and you never got approval. You follow me?
Yeah, I think the intent of the 1,000 was just so that there wasn't requests coming through for.
I get it. I'm not in disagreement with it. I'm just saying that there should be. Usually, there's an aggregate clause in there where you say, purchases, whatever it is, in excess of this gets approval. Anything less than that. I can get the exact language that we've used in contracts, which just says that, not to exceed an aggregate of, pick a number, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000. I don't know what the aggregate number would be here. I think that would be more of a question relative to the budget of an individual activity. So if you had golf, for instance, where maybe we're only spending, I don't know, maybe we're spending $5,000 a year on golf, and you spend up to $1,000 on golf. I don't know whether that's a Title IX issue because now you've just spent 20% in addition to 20% of the budget of golf, or they look at it from a dollars perspective where they're saying, oh, well, it's only $1,000 relative to all these other sports. You see what I'm saying? I just don't want to be in a situation where we're in a Title IX problem because an organization went out and spent a lot of money to support a program, and then we have an equity issue. And I don't know whether that's a question for Brian to sort out, where he says, well, look, when you get into, and then he can set the dollar figure number. Anything over this, yeah, you definitely got, that should be a red flag.
Yeah, that I can't answer. I don't have the knowledge of when equity issues kick in.
Sometimes money just runs through these accounts. Like if you are buying jackets or sweatshirts or whatever, the parents will write a check to baseball, you know what I mean, to the baseball boosters, and then literally you turn around and we'll write a check to JV Sports. It's not anything that we raise. It's just to have a central, to collect all the money and then write a check out for those invoices. You know what I mean? Like, so you don't get an accurate reflection of what the team is spending on the team because those things are different.
You mean it's like money in and money out?
It is. It's exactly it. It's money in and money out.
I think, though, that one of the issues, and I don't know whether Monica or Frank want to chime in here on this, but I think one of the issues that was brought to our attention during this last whole Title IX, investigation that we just spent 2 years on, was we have to be careful about the dollars that are being spent on each sport overall, not just what the district is spending, but what everybody's spending on these things. And so I don't know whether just because the parents of baseball say, look, we want new jackets and we're going to pay for them, that's great. We want new bats, so we're going to pay for them. Maybe you just have a really active parental group that just wants all new stuff all the time for their kids, and they're willing to pay for it, whereas, I don't know, maybe there's a different sport where that doesn't happen quite so much. Or activity, maybe its band doesn't spend as much money, and so now all of a sudden there's this disparity when we're reporting this stuff, in terms of a Title IX, and all of a sudden says, what's going on with this one particular sport? They're getting a lot of money coming in here at the end of the day. Yeah, it's going in and out, but it's a total dollar spent on that activity. You guys don't have parity here anymore between baseball and softball.
I think you're going to have to wait until the Title IX ruling comes out on booster clubs. It's not yet. That what they have out right now, they're looking at reevaluating because booster organizations all work differently. And so they realize that, just as you're saying, they can't quantify that baseball spent so much and softball spent so much because all of the organization run funds through the way we do. So that ruling hasn't come out yet as to what they're going to want next year when this reporting is due.
Okay.
They are.
I just know at the end of the day, everybody's filing tax returns and everything else, and if you're running the numbers, the problem is everybody has the ability in hindsight to go back and look and say, oh, well, this is what you spent last fiscal year on this sport, right? Because you're running the cash through your books. You guys are taking the cash and then spending it right away on behalf of the parents to buy the jackets or whatever. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the answer is here. I'm just raising this whole paragraph as a question that probably just needs some further discussion, because I don't know what the implications are from a process point of view and what we're supposed to be doing vis-a-vis Title IX.
It would be nice to get
Well, the Title IX
Brian's,
thing is
comments.
The Title IX thing, as Kelly said, is still up in the air. They're looking at it in Harrisburg and determining whether or not what they're asking for is even going to accomplish what it was originally intended to accomplish.
And they may not even be asking for booster information. It's on the table right now to strike that section.
Right. The
So it's
whole
still would just be
requirement by
forwarded.
booster funds to be monitored and evaluated may go away. So this policy may stay in a draft form until that's resolved, or just not dealt with in this policy. That's the only options you have.
Yeah, I guess what I'm just saying is, like, that paragraph, I just think it needs work. I'm not making any suggestions at this point in time other than, because I just got this latest rendition today, so I haven't really had a whole lot of time to digest it. It just strikes me as something I think we need to sort of kick around a little bit more and come up with something that works for our system that we have in place.
That's not a problem. I mean, this is breaking new ground here in Daniel Boone.
Yeah.
I think I said last week, too, I'd rather not rush into putting a policy together. Take our time, work through whatever we think the issues could be down the road, and then institute it when it's ready.
All right. Well, let us keep working on this paragraph to something,
Leave the first part of that paragraph. If the designee is your coach, I mean, I'm only speaking for sports boosters because that's all my frame of reference.
Right.
But, if your designee is the coach, that's how we operate anyway.
I think it just needs the word approval in there then.
So
That
and
it do- it-
says
it doesn't
approval
have-
for purchase of equipment
Well-
and apparel by boosters or sport organization for a district team or group.
Yeah, the
must be
original
obtained
does
through
say
The original says that, but the one we're
Oh, I
looking
mean
at
the
now
original.
doesn't.
Okay.
So
No, what Andrew's suggesting is reinserting this and getting rid of the one that's in there. I think, is that what you're saying, Andrew?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
So if we do that, that would probably take care of the issue.
can we do that for now, or do you want to just keep it as an open paragraph?
That's my suggestion, because then you're not worried about whether it's a little purchase or a big purchase. We know that we've got a coach or the athletic facilitator or it's a building principal who hopefully is clued into this whole issue of Title IX from an administrative point of view, because they've got their eye hopefully on the bigger picture. What is the school district spending versus the Brewster organizations and these individual fundraisers.
Well, that would be an expectation. If they're
that would be my expectation, is that a coach and or the athletic facilitator or building administrator has got their eye on the big picture, and they can look at it and say, oh, wait a minute, they're looking at buying, I don't know what, a new drum section.
Well, it's not just a Title IX issue. This paragraph can also serve to say, if something should change in the look of a uniform, at least it's got some approval at the administrative level.
And that was part of the conversation that we had last Tuesday, that's why this whole conversation wound up at the $1,000 level, because of the issue with the football jerseys.
Right, so I think the easier paragraph is the one that was in the original draft.
Okay.
Than the second one. That's just my opinion.
All right.
Under responsibilities of the district, I noticed that there was, number 2, posting coaches and advisors. The language has changed from coaches and advisors from athletic and activities personnel.
Yeah, we don't. That's not language we really use in Daniel Boone. That was just wording.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I haven't read I just want to make sure whatever language we have in there is the same language we have defined in our employee handbook.
Yeah, we call them coaches and advisors.
Okay, and throughout the rest of our policies?
Yes.
Okay. Because I thought we changed some of the language to say district personnel or something like that, which was all-inclusive.
Well, that would, by default, the coaches and advisors would fall under that. When I looked at that, we don't really call people athletic personnel. We call them coaches or advisors or activities personnel. That's just not the language we use in Daniel Boone.
What about volunteers that are those coaches?
Yeah, they fall under coaches, even if they're coaches or
approve
paid
them,
or
right?
volunteer, they're still coaches.
And you still approve
Yeah, but-
them.
And we still approve them.
I know we still approve them, but I'm just saying that this policy just calls out coaches and advisors. It doesn't speak to, look, there's a whole host of volunteers that work.
Could you just put including volunteers at the end of that?
I don't know that that's what he's getting at, though.
Volunteer coaches or volunteer?
Right, you mean volunteer
Volunteers
parents?
for the organization?
Athletic volunteers?
Yeah, but
This
would I
just
be
says
an
the
athletic
district shall be
volunteer?
solely responsible for posting, recruiting, interviewing, selecting, evaluating, and monitoring coaches and advisors. Right? It doesn't talk about whether we're going to be involved with monitoring, I guess is the word I'm sort of focused on, anybody else. And is that a problem? Because right now,
recruiting,
we do
interviews,
sort of monitor all the volunteers, don't we?
Yeah, because we vote on the volunteer list, every month as it comes out. So we are responsible for the volunteers.
So
Right,
volunteers.
so should this policy reflect that?
I would think.
Well, I don't know that you want to put the word volunteers in with posting, recruiting, interviewing, selecting, and evaluating. How do you evaluate a volunteer?
Yeah.
Well,
And are you
are we evaluating whether or not
Parent
they pass their
volunteers or
credit
just
checks, their background checks, their...
No, I don't think anyone. I mean, I
All the
understand
above,
what
I
you're
think you
saying,
both.
but that's not how I would interpret the word evaluating.
Right, that's
Evaluation
the
to
way I
me
would
is
think
when we look at a coach and say you got an A, B, C, D, or F for the year.
Could you add just another number?
Yeah, I mean you could add another. I think you need another item there. Not
The approval of, we're not selecting
saying,
them or
we've had-
monitoring.
Let's say you get a volunteer who's involved with a activity, and that volunteer starts acting in a manner that we don't find acceptable.
No, I understand what you're saying.
They're caustic, they're something
Right.
else. I mean, we're evaluating and we're monitoring them, and then at some point in time we say, look, we don't want you to be involved with this activity anymore. We're taking away your volunteer status, and thank you so much, but goodbye. I mean, we've done that in the past.
Yes, we have.
While I've been on the board, and so if it's not addressed in this line, we need to add a line where we address it. That's all I'm saying.
All right, I'll make a note to add.
I think it should be
A
separate.
line for appropriate behavior? Because what if what if it's none of us and somebody just doesn't like somebody else who's involved in an activity, who's on the school board?
And my question
that's a rather
also
slippery
is,
slope.
is that a comment that needs to be in this policy that's for booster/support organizations? Or is that something that should be in a different policy for?
I think I have to check
We
our
do have our volunteer
I think
policy.
our volunteer policy might already say something to that effect.
It does say
I don't
something
know
to that
that it
effect.
belongs here.
Well, let me just research it so we don't hold
Very
ourselves up on that.
antagonistic, I believe.
Let me look at the issue of monitoring of volunteers. I think that's dealt with in our volunteer policy.
Yeah, I know, but remember,
So,
this
at
is
least
talking
voting,
about responsibilities of the district.
Right.
Remember, the purpose of this policy is to delineate what responsibilities the district has and what in the district's domain, and what responsibilities are within the domain of these volunteer organizations. And all I'm saying is that, we approve the volunteers, and we do have a policy that does that, but in all of our policies, we cross-reference policies consistently.
Right.
And the issue that you always run into, whether it's a school district or it's a municipality or something else, if you've got policies that don't use the same language and they don't cross-reference each other, then they can be used against you should there be an issue that's raised from a legal perspective. Because, we could say, well, wait a minute, yeah, I'm a volunteer, but, your booster policy or whatever it is doesn't say you have any responsibility over me. And suddenly now we're sitting here going, well, wait a minute, this other policy does, but in the court of law, I don't know how it works with school districts all the time. I do know how it works in municipalities. The tie goes to the public. Okay, so if you have two conflicting regulations, the municipality rules it's the least restrictive of the two that applies.
Well, couldn't you
So
just drop
I don't know
in-
if that's the same case here. I got to believe it is because we're a municipal sort of organization as well. But I'm just raising it. I just think that, I don't understand why we wouldn't mention it.
How about if you just add another one that says approval of volunteers and the oversight of the adherence to the volunteer policy?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that works.
Just drop it in there, referencing the other.
Does that work for you?
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
put some wording
All right.
together. I'll put some wording together. Okay.
Number 3 from the old policy was taken out altogether, which was selecting, purchasing, using, maintaining, and storing equipment. If that's not the district's responsibility, I don't know whose that would be.
Well, one of our examples was if the band needed new drums, somebody mentioned that the district didn't, if it wasn't already in the district's budget or that portion of the district's budget and it fell to the boosters, that the district then wouldn't need to be involved in selecting the drums. We would work with that advisor, coach, staff member and purchase the drums and store the drums and maintain those drums. That's kind of what our thoughts were last week when we met.
The advisor, coach, staff member, isn't that the district, though?
Right, that would be
That
your
is the
designee.
district.
As opposed to the school board, I guess I meant.
Oh, okay. Is that what that said? Is that what it originally said, school board?
Yeah, it just says these are the responsibilities of the district. I mean, that's what the title of this thing
Right.
is. Responsibilities
Well, by
of the
default,
district.
that
And it
means the
says,
board.
Number 3, selecting, purchasing, using, maintaining, and storing equipment. I know the Boosters does a lot of that, particularly with band. You guys handle a lot of the equipment, and you guys are packing things up and moving it from place to place. But at the end of the day, this is applying to all activities. So I'm just thinking, I guess in my head, well, if we've got goals or, football pads and helmets and, I don't know, what, basketballs and all sorts of things, I would assume that our designee, somebody who's employed by the school district, is the one who's directing those purchases and, maintenance and storage of those things. I mean, you guys are clearly bringing that to their attention, saying, hey, we're going to go replace it, or we're going to go buy this. We're ultimately the ones responsible for that purchase or selection or the maintenance of that particular item, correct? Am I still there?
Yeah, you're still here. Everyone's processing.
Looking at each other because you lost us. Yes, the coach would be involved in, or in our case, in selecting the equipment that would be purchased because they would know, or Goose would be involved in it because she would have more knowledge than, say, I would. I can't go out and buy a soccer net. I wouldn't have any idea. So yes, they are already involved in that. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I think what's throwing you is you're thinking these are decisions that are going to be made by the 9 members of the school
Maybe
board.
that's
And
when
it says district or whatever, that means what you're doing today.
Right.
At least the way I'm interpreting it. Goose is the district in that
Right.
circumstance.
Right.
So she's acting on behalf of the district, and if she doesn't do something correctly, the district's going to come down on her. It's not your fault.
And the way I'm looking at it is if you're making those type of decisions, they're over $1,000, then we're at least informed, and then it goes through that whole process.
Who's informed?
The district.
I
The
guess
district,
at the end of the day, when you look at this list,
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. That's where I think you're getting confused. It could be that coach. And that coach's responsibility is to funnel stuff up, and it goes into the superintendent's report, and we get, the school board can get wind of it at least through that process. Mm-hmm. But I think what you're interpreting is that it all has to go through those 9 members of the board. It has to go through the designee, which is who you're doing business with today. Or maybe I'm just not.
No, that's how
Okay.
Because, every time we have, there's a stipend paid to somebody to monitor that activity, whether it's a coach or assistant coach, what have you.
Correct.
Those people
That is the
become
district.
the district.
They are the district.
They are
For that year.
by
That's
default.
my opinion, anyway.
By default. No, that's a fact of law. That's not an opinion.
well, look, this gets to, at the end of the day, it gets down to responsibility and liability, too. And so this policy is saying, look, that is 100% the district's responsibility. Okay, if something bad happens, who's ultimately responsible? And that's the way I read this. It's the district. So, the selection, the purchase, the utilization, the maintenance, and the storage of equipment, that has got to be the district's, responsibility. We are the ones that parents are entrusting their kids with to be utilizing this stuff, and ultimately we're the ones that are going to be held responsible for it as well. So I think that line needs to be in there. I mean, it comes to mind, Mike, when you told us you were driving around an unsafe trailer, right? I mean, we had to get that trailer fixed, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that trailer belonged to the district, and it's our responsibility to make sure it's in an operating condition that's safe for a booster volunteer to use.
Sure, and conversely, if to Kelly's point, if the sports boosters buy a piece of equipment, it's the district's responsibility that proper care of that equipment is taken. So something's not sitting out in the weather where that shouldn't be anything like that. So it's a dual responsibility. Mm-hmm.
So that one's back in.
Okay.
Yep. The other one that was taken out was number 5, which was hiring and supervising officials.
We took that as referees and judges.
Yeah, we've never been involved in hiring or supervising officials. I think that's why, because we didn't feel like related to the Booster Club, that's not even in our realm of.
Well, it falls under the district.
So we're just clarifying district responsibilities.
But the district would be Goose. Who would be Ms. Goss?
I don't think she
doesn't
schedules the referees. That comes from the league, not from
anyone within the school. So we don't approve anyone that comes.
Because they're PIAA.
We don't approve them per se.
They're already approved,
right,
and then they're assigned.
Right.
Yeah, just like judges for our things.
Like we don't call the Berks County officials and say we want Tom Smith and Joe, so and so for the football game. They just show up.
You send them your schedule, and then they fill the schedules.
Right, and they're already approved by that league.
I'm not so sure why that was in the policy from York Suburban.
So we don't, from the music side,
well, no.
like
This
a
is our
tournament bands
responsibility.
event
This is my point.
at the high
this
school.
This is delineating who's responsible.
Hang on a minute, Andrew.
Andrew.
Go ahead,
All
Mike.
right, let me repeat, Andrew. I'm sorry. So I'm just asking Lynn Lamont that when they have a tournament bands event at the high school in which judges are coming in because you're part of that circuit, aren't we pay for those judges, don't we?
We
Yes.
pay them, yes.
So do we as a school,
But you don't select
them.
it. All right, okay.
Yeah.
All right, just want to make sure.
But this isn't about selecting; it's hiring and supervising. So we
you're
contract.
reimbursing the circuit for the cost of those people that they send.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, we could put it back. It's not that we took it out to be negligent or anything. It was just a question of what we thought was important to be in and what wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think it helps to have that in there. It's just saying that, because you have this blurring of the lines again, right? I mean, I think did I hear it correctly, Mike, when you and Lynn said something about when you're having these tournaments, the boosters helps select these?
No, they don't select them, but they're responsible. Just like sports is somewhere along the line, the district pays for those officials. Mm-hmm. The same thing happens on the music side. I was just clarifying that because I know they choose what circuit they're going to compete in, and if you have an event at Daniel Boone, somebody's got to pay for those judges that come to judge the event. But the circuit that you're a part of, they pick and choose and send those judges to your event, and you're responsible for reimbursing the circuit for those people. That's what I heard.
Yeah, look, I think it's important that that's in here because, look, we're in tough budgetary times, and, clearly the boosters have been stepping up and supporting programs where the district has been unable to do so. But at the end of the day, we're saying, hey, look, this is still something the district's responsible for, right? The hiring and supervising of officials. That's always has been, always will be our responsibility, and we need a budget for those things.
Are they the right words, hiring and supervising? Though, I mean, I don't disagree with you having, a point of clarity in there saying, ultimately who is it that pays for these folks, but I don't know if hiring and supervising is the right word.
Well, we're hiring them, right? We're paying for a coach or an umpire or some other official.
We are indirectly hiring them. Not directly, but indirectly, if you're paying for them, you're hiring them.
Yeah, but no one's out there supervising them, right?
you pay TOB. You don't.
Right.
They go through their own clearance and approve.
Isn't our athletic facilitator supervising these people? Isn't our designee or somebody, from the district saying, look, that coach or that umpire is behaving, irresponsible. He needs to be, pulled off.
If you had an umpire,
Right, I don't think anyone is.
Report them to the higher.
We don't supervise them per se.
Through
Right. I don't think anyone. Right. I don't think anyone's out there feeling that their responsibility is to watch them and supervise them. I think if something goes wrong, surely they're going to say, something went wrong, and let me report that.
I would look.
We report them to PIAA.
Right, but I don't think anyone, if you ask anyone that's out there, I don't think they'd say, oh, yeah, well, part of what I should be doing tonight or today is supervising that
Keeping
person.
an eye on the officials.
You know what I mean? It's not...
Right, because then you take, in my opinion, you take on that responsibility. Say somebody shows up drunk.
Right. If you miss something.
You don't see it. Okay, but that person has some kind of problem, or he gets into a physical altercation because he's hammered. You're responsible by your own policy that you're responsible for that.
Right.
And I don't think
We could just take out the word supervising, hiring officials.
you would report it.
Or payment of. I don't like the word hiring either.
Because
we're not.
I think we're getting way too.
What did he just say? We reimburse them, right? What did you just say? Financially, we pay them for their
We don't get
services,
officials for free. Every time an official shows up at Daniel Boone, somebody paid them.
Right.
it's
Okay,
part of your,
so
part of the league dues or whatever.
wordsmith that for me.
Yeah.
What we just do. Tell me what that is.
Contract for all officials.
Okay. The
Contracting.
district
There
is
you go.
responsible for the contracting of.
Perfect.
Done. Supervising out. Welcome to policy.
Wow, this is lovely.
This goes on
guys.
once a
This is
month.
So much fun.
How many did we do?
That's at the end of the
No,
evening.
how many policies did we do?
There's a document that I sent you, quite a few.
Several hundred?
At least 60 or 70.
No.
Yeah.
We've done more than
We
that.
did several hundred.
I don't even know. I've lost track. But anyway,
Anyway, we digress.
we digress. So go ahead. Number 5 now reads contracting officials, and it's back in the draft policy.
Right.
So let's move on.
Let's see. Number 6 looks like it was also taken out, which says transporting
It's still in. It's number
participants to
4
and from regular
now.
functions.
It's number 4 now.
Oh, all right. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. It moved on.
That one's in there.
Number 7, I had a question on. This just says on the old one. Let's see if it's on the new one. Where is it on the new one? Okay, yeah, it was changed a little bit. It says it's number 5 on the new one. It says approval of competitions and activities. Where before it was scheduling competitions and activities. I don't really know what the difference is here between approval and scheduling. The other question I had in here was, what about tournaments?
I don't.
I thought that was.
That just kind of falls under competitions. Any competition is a competition, tournament or otherwise.
Right. I think we again
Okay.
we're mixed on that between the district versus a coach or a band director per se, which is why we changed it from scheduling to approving. Because if the director says, okay, we're going to compete in this circuit, these are our competitions, the district then approved that, and I think that's why we changed it from scheduling to approving.
Yeah, remember the coach is the district.
Right. In other words, what she was saying is trying to give the district more power with the word approving rather than scheduling.
Yeah. Look, I'm just pointing out the difference. That's all. I was just asking the question. So.
I don't even know if it would be bad to say scheduling and approval. Put both in.
Yeah, I think you put them both in there.
I don't think it makes a difference.
Approval of competitions and activities and district facilities. That's the way that's supposed to read?
I don't know. That's
What
a
is that?
typo. Sandy must have put a typo in there. That just gets scratched.
All right.
Oh, no. Wait a minute. I think it was making sure the fields got scheduled correctly, that was our responsibility. Leave that in there. That's why we put that in there.
Get rid of that period then.
Yeah, the periods they'll throw
Approval
off.
of competitions, activities, and
district facilities, yeah.
Which line are you on, Fred?
5. Number 5.
That new number 5, we added the word district facilities because we wanted the responsibility to be the ones to assign the fields.
What did
Yes,
you say
okay.
came after activity?
It says, right now what it should read, there's a typo, but the way it reads is approval of competitions, activities, and district facilities.
My copy doesn't say in district.
Yeah.
Oh, this
She changed it.
This came, when did
Yes.
this come? Today?
I printed it.
Yes.
So this has a name.
Came sometime today,
I
it
didn't
changed.
get one today. Okay.
I'll get a new master copy. We had a few.
And I think if you can get some of these changes, like, you know, whatever they are, strike throughs or whatever, so we can see what was there before versus
Right.
what's after. Because anybody not at this meeting right now is going to be really confused because we got like 4 different versions that we're dealing with at this point.
We were also going to add.
Well, the reason that occurred is because we were starting from a draft policy which wasn't even at a first reading level yet.
Right.
So this
Okay,
point
so-
forward, we'll do that, but we're not going to go back to the original
No.
and strike through that.
No.
We're just going to
Yeah, that's
put strike throughs on this version.
Right.
okay.
Lynn, hold on a minute, Andrew.
We also talked about last week on that current number 5, we were going to add as a host and a participant.
I don't remember that.
Can you
But
read,
I had it
can you
written
read that
down.
sentence, Lynn?
yeah, what would it say again then?
Approval of competitions, activities, and district facilities as a host and a participant, and/or a participant.
Why did we want to put that? I don't
If
remember
you're
that.
traveling, I mean.
If you're
Because if we're traveling somewhere, we're going to want to prove it also.
Oh, okay, yes. I understand. That's
Okay.
what it is. As a host and/or participant,
right,
which means participant would imply we're going somewhere else.
right, you're the away.
Okay.
Okay. Good. Next.
Let's see. Number 6 on the new one. I just had a question. It says maintaining and administering district athletic departments and co-curricular activity funds. How does this relate to these individual accounts? Are these included now?
We talked about that. Remember, you left it in because it was activity funds for activities who. that
Yeah, because
still belong to the
because
district,
these are the
like
ones that
clubs.
this is referring to the ones that are like when an organization does fundraising. That's the account. That's a student activity account technically, and not a
TSA
booster account.
probably has a
When
student
TSA
activity
has an account, or I guess even the band has an account. When Yearbook has an account.
Right.
When any of those groups have an account, they're under the oversight of the school district. They should never be under the oversight of the boosters. Those are student activity accounts.
Clearly. The question I'm raising has nothing to do with our other activity accounts. It's these, as it relates to sports, I guess, in particular, the individual fundraising that's going on right now by these kids that currently is going into these 27 separate accounts that we've been talking about,
That's-
where it's, you know, the Boosters organization is a co-signer on there, as well as our current district secretary. You know what I'm referring to?
I don't think that's the case anymore.
She's not on there. They're booster accounts.
Say that again?
She's not on there any longer. They're booster accounts.
They're now all booster accounts?
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, there was another one that was stricken. I think it was number 9 on the old one. It says, making all decisions concerning the program, operations, maintenance, administration, and selection of awards. That was taken out as well.
That was just another one of those things that it was not something that we felt had any
Yeah.
bearing on what we do and wasn't an issue at the time. So, I mean, it could be in there. I don't know that it has any teeth being in or not being in. Because I don't think the boosters certainly aren't involved in that. And the way awards are, it could stay in. I mean, technically, it's not really hurting anything to stay in.
Can I answer?
Sure.
No, go ahead.
Son.
That's, hey, you do what you want.
Have them join the meeting.
So anyway, Andrew, that could go back in. I mean, I don't
So there's no dispute over it. You just thought it was
Right.
not.
It wasn't a disputed item.
So yeah, so throw it in.
I mean, 50-50, very marital.
Again, it just brings more clarity to where responsibilities lie. That's all. So it's worth having it in.
So when they select their scholarship winners for sports or music, that's not an issue.
When who selects? The boosters?
Yes, because the boosters have, at least both of them have their own scholarships that they provide at the scholarship ceremony.
We took
Right.
that as a
Well, we don't
word,
wanna-
like Susan.
Yeah, I don't think you want to get into
We
that.
don't want to mess with that.
Because they,
Andrew, you don't want to. You're not suggesting we interfere with that, are you?
I'm not suggesting interfering with anything. I'm just saying that was in before, and now it's out. So I guess it's interesting because it's a very all-inclusive sort of paragraph where it says, making all decisions concerning the program operations. I mean, clearly that's a district responsibility. All the program maintenance, the program administration, and the selection of award winners. And I just sort of had a question in there, like what kind of awards, because I knew, maybe we do as a district we make some awards, but at the same time, I knew the boosters have their own sort of, scholarships and awards that they give out on their own.
We all have scholarships. That's the only
Well,
thing.
just take that part out.
What we were doing, I wanted to delineate what we were doing.
Well, then, I think I have the solution. Maybe we insert the selection of district-delivered awards rather than, like, if the boosters or somebody else wants to give a scholarship, I don't think the district really has a lot of sway in getting involved in that decision.
Whatever we want to.
In other words...
Yeah, but see, if you add that in, even if you say district awards, now you're still...
Well, that's
you're
like if
making
you-
it unclear that it's okay for them to continue to give out scholarships and awards.
It's no
At a
different than the
booster
Rotary Club or the Women's Club.
Right.
You're pulling them all in. Then I think you should.
I think you
leave that
just
out.
strike the awards completely.
Yeah.
Just
Well, that was our original intent.
that's what we wanted to do.
Because-
leave the rest of that in. What
I-
Andrew was reading from that was taken off of this. Put that back in, but I think take the awards part out.
We'll make all decisions concerning the program, operations, maintenance, administration of what? That's an unfinished sentence.
Making all the decisions concerning the program, operations, maintenance, administration. Period. You're not going to talk about the selection of award winners.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Last one that was taken out, and I think I already know the answer to this, but I just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page. Negotiating and administering vending contracts. Do we do this now? Is the school district involved in any way with vending contracts at athletic or student-run activities?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, that's all done outside of the...
It's all fundraising.
That's all fundraising. We don't have any vending
We
contracts.
don't have any vending contracts.
You don't have any vending contracts.
Okay. Okay, then it doesn't need to be in there. I was just curious. I didn't know.
All right, so there's a lot of rewording from that section.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I have to go back to the one that said making all decisions concerning the program, operations, maintenance, and administration, and then you're not putting of what. I'm not sure how that applies to PTC. Because, like, we have an athletic program, you have a music program, so clearly there are people over us. PTC is a different type of organization. I'm not sure how that would affect them.
Within
Do
the
you-
school. The program.
You know what I mean? Making decisions concerning the program and operations. What program? Just the school?
District program.
Okay.
So as far as the PTC is concerned, the PTC supports district program, correct? Whether it's
Okay.
elementary classrooms or it's supplies and for art classes or something else, right?
Programs in general.
Yeah, say they wanted
Yeah,
to
okay.
donate something to like the science lab, some
Okay.
kind of microscope or something that,
Okay.
That's how I looked at it.
Okay.
So we're not putting an "of" at the end of that sentence. We're just saying making all decisions concerning the program, operations, maintenance, and administration.
Or get rid
Of the program at the end.
Making all decisions concerning program, operations, maintenance, and administration.
You're right.
That's
Yeah,
good,
put-
yeah.
put-
Okay.
Take
the word
the
"of"
The
out.
program needs to go, like
At the end.
Frank
No,
said, Frank.
no, Andrew said it right.
Okay.
Say it again.
Making all decisions concerning program, operations, maintenance, and administration, period. Now it makes sense.
All right.
Putting a big circle around that one. Okay.
Okay, moving on to responsibilities of the Brewster support organizations. So again, numerically, there's a bunch of these that are missing or have been taken out, and if you guys can walk us through the logic behind it, that'd be great. So number one used to be agree to abide by the disciplinary policy of the district concerning the conduct of district students in all district-related activities, and that one was taken out.
Because we don't discipline students. We can't abide by your policies because we would never discipline students. That would be somebody else. Do you know what I mean? I would never discipline a student. It would be whatever advisor, coach, whomever was there from the school.
The district.
So should that be the district? Should we push that
That
up to
would
the
be in
district?
your-
I think
Right,
that's
district
such a
employees,
Granular.
no. Let me say this. It's such a blatantly obvious thing that the district never loses its ability to discipline students for their behavior. Period.
No. I don't think that's the issue. I think what it's saying is that the boosters and support organizations agree to abide by
Concerning the conduct of students.
Concerning the
decisions
conduct.
that are
Right, and the
made
feeling
by-
was that it was almost like
We're enforcing your.
they don't, not that they're not going to, it doesn't even need to be there because that's going to automatically happen anyway.
Right, but the responsibility should be that of the district, not the boosters. That's how we.
Yeah, so if you.
I mean, that was our
agree
thinking
to
when we
abide
discussed it.
by to me, that reads that I would have the responsibility. If somebody was there and drinking, then it would be my responsibility to say something to them. It's not my responsibility. I would go to somebody in the district. It's their responsibility.
Yeah,
You don't want your
correct.
volunteers having responsibility over disciplinary actions. That's not.
Right, because if you read number 3 in the original with following the chain of command, that's the route things should go. That was our thinking last week, as I recall.
So if it was left in, I agree with them, Andrew, but when you were thinking through this, if it were left in, then give us an example of how they would exercise that.
I guess I was just thinking in terms of, look, from my perspective on the board, where, and I don't know if this has ever happened or not, so you guys sort of fill me in. Let's say you had an issue with a student, a star athlete or a star whatever, musician, and the district disciplined them by saying you can't play on that sport anymore.
Go
And
ahead.
that really, it was an unpopular decision. People were up in arms. There's some big championship thing coming up. I don't know. I mean, I'm just
That's a good example.
hypothetical, okay? And, we got parents, they're storming the board meetings, and you got the boosters organizations that maybe say, wait a minute, it's unfair, you don't know the whole story, and they're coming down on the side of the student or the student's family or whatever.
My guess is that, let me interrupt you, my guess is that's why that was put in by York Suburban. That something like that probably, exactly what you're saying, probably happened somewhere. The starting quarterback got caught drinking, or whatever it might have been, and somebody wanted a favor done. And this kind of says, no, you're going to follow and accept what the district has to do. That's what I think you're saying.
That's where I'm going. And maybe this language needs to be a little bit more clear, but
When
the way I read it
decide who
was...
plays?
Yeah, we
No.
Power.
I think what he's saying is, in other words, like he just said, suddenly there's 50 football parents in the room saying that was an unfair punishment for X.
That's
their
freedom of
prerogative.
speech.
No. But they are, by this policy, at least agreeing to abide by it and understanding that this is the route that has to be.
But they
Are
have
you
the
saying-
power
You can
not to
understand
abide
it,
by
but
it.
they don't have to
They
not
can still
have a
complain
comment.
about it.
I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I'm not.
Right.
I mean, I'm just trying to make something that makes sense to everybody.
Is that gag
Well,
order?
the way I read this is that you may not like as an organization, you may not like the rules, you may not like the decisions that the district makes, but you agree to live with them, and you agree to abide by those rules and those regulations, even when you disagree with the outcome. And that that's the way I looked at it, because
No, I see your point now. We didn't say that last week.
The district goes left, and everybody wants the district to go right. And then, think about booster organizations in general. I'm not calling out the Daniel Boone community, but people change. The way organizations are used change as well over time, and you can have a situation where it becomes a lobbying group, right? Where they're saying, well, look, we don't like that, and we don't like the decision on the discipline on that student, so we're going to organize and we're going to protest and we're going to defund what we originally proposed to support that program until you guys as a district come in line with our way of thinking.
Well, that's not within our bylaws and our objectives, that type of behavior, but it certainly could be within anyone's realm of thinking that someone might disagree with a particular action by any school board or school district.
Yeah, and you can always disagree, and you can always vocalize your disagreement.
Yeah, but it's one thing to vocalize your disagreement as an individual. It's another to do it as a group, as a 503c that supports the school.
So
I'm not sure I agree.
Yeah, I don't either.
I'm not sure I agree.
You can't make the organizations agree with a school board or a district. There'll be times when they don't agree, and that's their right and their prerogative not to agree. And I think you're reading an awful lot into this little
One paragraph
here, right there.
No, but I think what he's
by not having in there, what I see is that you could theoretically say we're not going to abide by your disciplinary policy.
But what I don't understand is, how do you think a booster club would have the power not to abide? I can't make a child play that you've said can't play, or if somebody doesn't have the grades, we can't come in and say, hey, they have to play. That's your call. That has nothing to do with us.
Are we asking that the presidents of these clubs abide by this, but they can't control what their participants do? Like, are we just asking that the presidents or everybody abide by that? Because I think everybody is not going to abide by that.
No, this is abiding by the discipline of students, not the adults. This has to do with the students.
So, but are we asking the presidents of the booster clubs to abide by that rule?
You're asking the
boosters.
boosters.
Agree. The whole booster
Membership. You're talking about
Sentence
the
says
membership.
every single
Everyone.
person.
So if this were added back in, are you thinking that if the scenario you mentioned occurred, that the booster representative would not be allowed to stand up at an open mic and verbalize their disagreement?
It's got nothing to do with muzzling somebody. I think what it has to do with is, from an organizational perspective, funding something or something else. You know what I'm saying? Like,
okay, I get where you're going. Let me think about it for a second.
The boosters have the power of the purse, right? I mean, that's what boosters do. They fundraise to provide support for something. And I guess what I'm saying is, when there's a disciplinary action taken on a student for whatever, that's the realm and responsibilities of the district to enforce, those students. And we've all acknowledged that here tonight, right? But if there's some sort of outrage that, you could have suspended that kid after the season was over. You didn't have to do it now. And as a result of that, there's a whole uproar about some issue. And it becomes a political thing in many ways. And now all of a sudden, you've got people who aren't abiding by that decision anymore.
I disagree because the
Right.
function of the booster organization is to support that group, not one individual who might have been disciplined. And if we were to withhold funding, which we wouldn't do anyway,
Right.
but if we were to withhold funding to any program, it hurts the group.
Right, our own children. We're not giving, because we don't give anything to the district. It goes to the kids. Why-
Let
So you're
me-
hurting an entire team because of a punishment on one child.
We could go another hour on this
Don't do
topic.
that.
Let me call back to Denny and ask why York Suburban even put that in there and see what the intent of it was. Maybe.
Well, it doesn't matter what the intent was. The wording is they're not comfortable with the wording. Let's get to what the issue is that Andrew's trying to protect the district with, and that is something that states that if there is a disagreement in district decisions, that the boosters can't hold back funding based on not liking that decision. That's what he's trying to get at, I think. Is that what you're right? Is that the?
Hold back
Well,
funding.
I don't know if it's, I don't know, I mean, look, I don't know what
Hurting the three kids were
the
supported.
Boosters organization would do. I guess I'm sort of thinking of this, I'm not applying it just to Daniel Boone. I don't want anybody to take this personally, okay? I'm trying to think of something global because these policies only get touched once every 10 years.
Right. The issue is the word abiding. They can't abide by anything because they don't, other than giving us funding, they're not doing anything. So I'm trying to get to that.
Or the difference is you're funding something that the district says you can't fund. And you say, screw it, we're going to fund it anyways.
Okay, well,
But you've already
word
asked
something
for
that way.
approval.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying that, like, let's say the district says, oh, look, the whole, I don't know.
That
I mean,
goes
I've seen
back- yeah,
this
that goes back
on
to
a
what you
collegiate
talked
level
about.
where you had a rugby team that got a little out of control and they behaved in a way that they weren't supposed to behave, and it was really bad. Okay, and the university stepped in and took some disciplinary action, and there was a lot of fundraising groups that didn't like that. Okay, and that's sort of what's going on in my head. This happened at Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and I knew guys that run a rugby team. So I'm just trying to apply that now. Okay, well, what happens if there was a group of individuals, students, that conducted themselves in a way that was reprehensible? The school district took action and banned the entire season. I don't know. And the Boosters organization says, well, that's not fair. Those are my kids that are out there. So they should have a right to play. We're going to go ahead and fund them playing in some XYZ tournament somewhere anyway, even though they were banned. Well, they're not really abiding by the district's decision in terms of disciplinary action. And if it's not in policy, I don't know what you have to go to the Booster bylaws, and I haven't read the Booster bylaws to see if there's something in the bylaws that says, no, you have to follow district policy. I don't know. And I don't want to make a big to-do about this. I'm just throwing it out there. This obviously was in a policy in a different school district for a reason. And I'm just trying to think, okay, well, we took it out. Why did we take it out? Maybe we leave it out. I don't know. I mean, I'm not married to it. I'm just throwing out the hypothetical of look, we're all not going to be here forever, and there's going to be different people sitting in these seats. And they may act differently than reasonable people may act.
All right, hang on.
I think what you're saying is to put something in there so they're not interfering or challenging district policy, but you still have the district. We already covered that in this policy. The district still has oversight of the spending, and if the booster organization would go against district policy or challenge it, they can. That when the next time it comes up for them to be authorized or approved, sanctioned, whatever the word is, that would be something to be considered.
Yeah, I think you got a point.
I think we're trying. I was just trying to think of what problem we were trying to solve that we actually ran into. I can't think of one because, I mean, if there was a budget cut or something like that was pending, I would assume that is the role of the booster organizations to champion those programs of which they support. But I can't see them. I can't see a situation where they're going to peddle influence. Maybe this is the better word against the district to sway or interfere with the decision made on some personnel matter. I don't know.
I don't know. To some points that Andrew makes, I agree with. that there should be something to safeguard that, say something did happen, that we wouldn't have this huge uproar. But at the same time, I don't think they should be
I think any uproar you're going to have, you're going to have a public
silenced
hearing
in the
regardless.
process. They should at least not override what maybe the district had to
You-
do for a disciplinary.
But they can't. They can't, like Kelly said, they can't make a suspended player play. They can't spend money on, if the district says they're not going to fund something, they can't fund it because ultimately the district has approval over that.
The only
They have
thing-
oversight over all that. And that was already.
I know, the only thing that pops in my head is some T-shirt that just says, "Build it and they will come" type thing about the stadium. You know, I guess the uproar about building a new stadium, that whole thing. I
Yeah,
mean,
that-
if the district would have
Just do
said,
it.
"We're not
It
doing
said,
it,"
just do it.
if the district said, "We can't do it," and then we
Really,
had,
it was really T-shirt?
well, I thought.
There's T-shirts that said, just do it.
I mean,
But you can't
some-
stop that.
I
I
know you
disagree with.
can't
I
stop
disagree with
it.
stopping that.
I know, I'm just thinking.
Because
You can't
it's freedom.
stop that.
Yeah, it's
If
someone's.
we were to vote on this, my vote is to leave that number one out. That's my
I
opinion.
would leave it out too.
That's just my opinion.
I just think there's maybe something to just.
I think
put
you can
something
always come
small.
back and tweak this if it
Yeah.
becomes an issue.
That's why I said, let me find out what the intent was when they originally put it in here.
I would. I just need to be clear on what it is we're trying to solve, and then we can talk about putting it in. I'm not certain what we're trying to solve yet. I don't think we can stifle people from speaking
No,
their
I
mind.
don't either. I don't either.
I mean, you get disappointed sometimes when you work together and people rise up and get a little nasty about things, but I don't think you can stop it. You wish it wouldn't happen that way, but you know, it's what we are. It's you know.
I guess the question is how are you using the funds, right? So is it appropriate to use funds that were raised to support, I don't know, whatever it is, specific program, and you're going to use those for, printing up T-shirts that say just building, which is more of a political issue than it is a athletic or activity issue.
But if that team
You know
raised
what I'm
their
saying?
funds, and I just again say team, they raise the funds, they can use the funds to do whatever it is they want to do. If it's a T-shirt, they don't have to put it through our account. They could put it through anything and buy their own
But
T-shirt.
no, I disagree with that. I don't. People, just because they're fundraising in the name of the district, can't do whatever the heck they want. That's the point. I think is that
Well, if you
maybe we're wandering a little off topic because I don't think that really applies to this particular.
I don't think it does apply to this one at all. But if they choose to fundraise and buy jackets, whatever it is, and the whole team says they're going to do that, and that's what they want to do, and they know they're fundraising toward that. To be honest, I'm not really sure how that applies to this number one, abide by the disciplinary policy. So I guess we're completely off topic here.
Say if the team would have a fundraiser for a jacket, wouldn't that be approved by the coach?
It would be approved by the coach.
So which
And
is why
then
the
if it's more than
administration.
$1,000, then it comes.
Well, no, we took that $1,000 clause is gone.
So then when would we see
Who
that?
approved the shirts
You
4
see
years
everything.
ago?
That was through the foundation.
Yeah, he wants to see
Through
$35.
That was actually, and that is a bad example. That was done.
Yeah,
That was a rogue event.
Okay.
That had nothing to do.
What shirts?
Those shirts everybody
Yeah,
walking
there
around
was
with,
a-
just build
there's
it.
a-
I never
That
saw
was
that.
That was
a-
down on that
that
one.
was a-
I
that
never
was
saw
a-
that.
Well, you should have came to the meeting. There were about 200 people sitting with those shirts on.
That was a rogue event that I don't think applies to this.
Yeah, all right. Well, how about if we give that a little bit more thought? And again, I need to understand what we're really zeroing in and trying to solve.
Well, look, I don't even know. I mean, you guys asked me for a hypothetical. I'm trying to.
Yeah, no, I understand.
I read it. I'm thinking to myself, well, geez, somebody put that in there for a reason. Now, what could it be, and why did we take it out? And so that's the only thing I'm doing here. And at the end of the day, if it comes out, I mean, I'm not married to the statement. I'm just wondering why it went in. It was obviously put in there for a reason by somebody.
Yeah, no, I think it's good discussion. We're just not all seeing the picture yet.
Work in progress, as they say.
Yep. Okay, are we moving on?
Yep.
Okay. Just dropping down after number 3, that first paragraph there, Brewster support organizations, blah, blah, blah. It says all fundraising activities must be approved by the building administration.
You're on the old
At
one?
minimal-
Yes.
That's on the new one too, is it not?
Yes.
Okay, so the middle of that paragraph on the bottom of that page 4 says Brewster / support organizations are adult organizations which sponsor fundraising activities, blah, blah, blah. All fundraising activities must be approved by the building administrator. I just said that our language is consistent. I might just say, whatever, the same thing we've been saying before, district designee or something like that, is because I can't imagine that the building is it always the building administrator that's approving fundraising activity? Or
in our district, the principal signs off on all fundraising activities.
Okay.
They have to cross that person's desk.
I guess leave it in then.
Yep, that's why we left it in. We didn't want coaches and anybody else out doing that without at least the principal's signature on that form.
Okay, and then the whole paragraph about concessions and banquets, and that was all taken out.
Well, the concession issue was because of the different agreements that we have. I think we already have a legal agreement regarding the concession stand down at the stadium, so we didn't want to mix this policy up with that.
Is that concession thing, does that only apply to the thing down at the stadium? Does it apply to like basketball games and wrestling events and, I don't know, other stuff?
Within the building.
That's
the group actually man that small counter concession.
Yeah,
Club,
that's the different clubs at the high school handle the one at the high school for basketball games. The one down in the stadium is the one we have the joint agreement with. I guess Brian Subers put that legal agreement together a couple of years ago.
Correct.
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering. I don't know whether it needs just asking the question because you guys know it better than I do. I mean, we have more concession sales going on than just at the stadium, do we not?
Basketball game and
we only have 2 concession stands, one outdoor and one indoor.
Okay.
Very minimal at the basketball.
Then the one that's at the high school is indoor, and that's run by the different student groups.
Okay, and we don't do any other concessions anywhere else?
We have the concession. The only concessions I'm aware of are the one that we put down in the stadium and the one in the hallway up at the high school down the hall from the gym.
Okay. Do you want to have any kind of reference in here in regards to quote-unquote concessions, either to the contract that's in place or something else?
Well, we didn't. I mean, it's
I know we have a contract, but this is the policy that talks about, our support organizations in the district and who's responsible for what. I would think we at least want something here pointing to that.
Well, I would say if we're going to do that, this section shouldn't have any of the wording that's here. We should craft our own individual wording. Because this doesn't apply to us at all. Other than that wellness stuff and this and that, I think it's okay to say that. Where they encourage them to follow student wellness, but I don't even know that you want to go there.
We got rid of French fries, let me tell you.
Yeah, the French fries and cheese might.
No more soda.
The biggest profit margin might go away there.
Aquafina. It's the only thing you can drink.
So you struck a chord there with that one, Andrew.
Hey, I don't want them to stop selling the good stuff either.
Well, let's work on something that we might want to say. I just don't think it's...
I don't know if anything needs to be said. I'm just asking.
I think the consensus was we didn't think anything really... We had enough outside of this policy to cover that issue.
We want to keep it very big.
Okay.
That we didn't think we needed it in here.
The one thing that I do agree with is that the contract, when we're all gone, this won't specify anything like the contract for the concession stands at the football games are blah, blah, blah. I mean, if you know about, I didn't know about that when I first got on board. So when
But it's
we're
one
all,
of the district policies, so that would be on record.
which policy?
It's not a
I've read
policy.
No, there's
the
the
policies.
vendor-
I haven't seen anything
Well,
that
it should be on
states.
your.
There was an
website.
agreement
Some of
that
them.
the district entered into legally with the booster organizations for them to purchase the concession stand, and then it designated in there who was responsible for X, Y, and Z as far as running it.
Even if you had a small little reference.
That's what I said. We should probably put something
See district
that
policy
So
number, blah, blah,
Blah,
blah.
blah, yeah.
well, it's not a policy.
No, there's no policy.
Right.
It's not a policy. It's an agreement.
I worked with Mr. Zubers on that.
I know that. Andrew, I didn't know if you knew Scott's here as well.
Yeah, no, I know. I just think that look, concessions is a huge thing that the boosters organizations do. So I don't know whether there should be some sort of reference to the concessions in the policy. And if we've got an agreement that's only specific to the football stadium, should there be something in here that also applies to what goes on? I can't remember now, Scott. Does that contract or agreement that we have also include what's going on inside the building?
No,
No, it was the stadium.
just the stadium.
Just the stadium. So I don't know whether we need to have
Inside,
something in the
not
policy that
even
refers to that contract as well as, what goes on inside the...
The boosters aren't connected to the inside concessions at all.
But this does refer to all fundraising activities. Isn't that a fundraising activity when they're in the inside concession stand?
That's through student groups or activities.
Well, are they
Yeah.
fundraising, or are they just getting the money to
No,
go?
that's a fundraiser in the sense of the word fundraiser.
What do they do with the money then?
Wasn't the sophomore
Okay, I said in the
class
sense
software?
of the word, like fundraiser to me is when you go out and you're.
That might be somebody's
giving-
source
yeah.
of income for something.
This is just a snack stand.
Well, I do know one.
If
It
that
might
money
be the
goes back to-
sophomore class
went to
that
German.
has that, but I
Right,
don't.
that's what I'm
It
thinking.
used
Went
to
to the
be.
German club. Isn't that a fundraiser for German club then?
But I'm not really sure how
I
that
don't know
works
how
because
the
I'm
inside
not involved in
works.
it. But I believe at one time, and it may still be, it belonged to like the sophomore class, and they would use that as a fundraiser for the sophomore class. And then what they would do is if German club came in to work it, they would donate $100 to the German club. Don't take that as verbatim. I don't know that. I believe that's
Well,
how it
then
used
somebody
to
is
work.
controlling that.
And that
But
might be
it's
different.
school-based. It's somebody in the
Within the
school.
school.
Well, then we need to know who that is then.
No, I think what we need is language here that's specific to Daniel Boone that puts the concession issue to
But
bed.
it wouldn't
But
be a
that is-
booster, but it wouldn't be in your booster policy because it's not a booster organization.
Oh, she's got a point there. They don't have anything to do with
We
the
don't have anything to
It
do
doesn't
with
have a
that.
place in this policy.
What does it?
The indoor concession stand issue. The boosters aren't connected to that in any way.
Booster or an outside organization in any way. There's nothing.
Well, can you make reference of that? Why don't you just make reference of that in this policy that
Well, you have down here
That the-
organizations or adult.
the organizations are not?
Why don't we change that to special in high school?
Interest.
But then your policy gets, you've got things in your policy that don't belong here. You're starting to talk about issues that aren't related to this policy in any way.
But what are they doing with the money?
It doesn't matter. That's another question, but it's not a
not a
question for this policy. It's a question.
Hold on a second.
But if you put it in this policy, why is it there?
It's not a booster. None of that money would ever come to a booster club of any sort. It's
I mean, right there,
different.
the guideline is booster support organization. Now, support organizations such as a club,
Right. But isn't
So-
it also says
But that's not a
co-curricular
support
activity?
Clubs aren't support organizations. They're student activities.
Right.
okay, well,
Hold on, I got a question. Do the boosters sell stuff at basketball games and wrestling games in the indoor concession stand?
Not music boosters.
No, they sell just, it's candy, sodas, soft pretzels, hot dogs.
very limited.
But that's concessions, right?
Yeah.
It's concessions, but not, it's district concessions. It's not booster concessions. It's student activity concessions.
I see. So you're telling me at basketball games and wrestling events and stuff like that, only student or district people are selling concessions?
Well, it's students, but yes, under the auspices of the district.
Okay, all right. Well, then I can see why. I think you just need something in here that just refers to the contract. I mean, this first sentence, booster support organizations involved in concessions at school events shall follow district guidelines and other legal agreements. I think that's all you need to have in there.
Yeah, and I had actually drawn a line to that point.
Because that's going to point you to whatever legal agreements we have and,
Right.
and those that govern, right?
Yes. I think that
Okay.
sentence we could reinsert that back in there without, it's clear, there's no need for interpretation.
Right.
And it makes you follow any other guidelines that are in place.
Right, okay. And I assume we got rid of the whole banquet recognition event thing just because, what, they don't do those on the campus anymore, or they don't do them on campus, they're all done somewhere else?
We have an awards night tomorrow, but it's not a banquet anymore. Like they get cookies and ice cream and there's an awards ceremony. But it's not a banquet. And you know what I mean? I don't know. They don't do that anymore. Some of the
But it's a recognition event?
It's a recognition, right. Like the coaches will recognize their seniors and they'll recognize their players and they'll talk about their season and they'll give out, like anybody who earned a varsity pin, like that's all given out.
That's through the district, though. That's not a booster. The boosters just supply snacks.
We supply snacks, right, yes.
Nice.
But we don't say who got awards or anything like that. Okay,
Like we had a cross-country banquet the other night.
right.
Did the boosters pay for that, or did our individual team just pay for that?
Our
Did
individual
it come
team
through the
paid for
boosters?
that. It hasn't come through the boosters yet. I don't know if it will. It may come through the, like you may take money from your account, in which case I'll get a request from your coach to do that.
Okay.
And then was that on school?
It was at the Birdsboro Community Center.
Okay.
And I know that we paid $14 a person
Right.
for that. And
That's
so does
probably
that come
covered
back
all.
to you and then?
So you wrote it out for cross-country?
No, they want it cash.
Oh, then I but imagine he's going to pay that bill separately.
Okay.
I don't know. I'll look and see if I can get if I get notification.
That coach should
about it.
know.
Yeah, your coach will know. Whoever. Yep.
Whoever ran the event.
Because I wasn't sure
Right.
if that cash went back to you and then you guys wrote out the check so that there was some, I didn't know if that applied to this.
Right.
I mean, just,
I don't know. I'll let you know if
Okay.
I get a request.
okay.
Yeah. But your
Because I don't know
coach-
if that applies to the banquets that
Yeah.
we're
Right.
talking about in part of this
Right.
policy. Would that be considered a banquet? That we should be, that
Right.
should be in the policy?
I didn't know you had one. I don't know.
Yeah,
The music
schools do
doesn't
their
have
own
any
thing.
banquets anymore.
Yeah, they have gone
Well-
to the wayside.
Just,
I
I
mean, it
mean,
doesn't- if you
there's
want it in
a lot of
there,
this
I
has
don't
never
think
been
it's-
regulated by any of us. That's why this conversation is lasting almost 2 hours, because this is all new territory
I don't think
for us
there's
to.
anything offensive in there if you want it in there,
Well, I'm just saying, if we are having banquets,
right?
I mean,
Well, we don't have banquets. I think they're more
I have
we have
Yeah, I mean,
recognition. Well, yeah, I guess we do
How do you
that.
know where that cash trail goes for that
I
$14 bucks?
gave $42 for
To
a
your coach
banquet.
or to whomever.
You should ask
your-
I would ask the
whoever your
coach.
parent was who was in charge of
Yeah,
that,
there was a
and then
parent,
they'll
we
have a
gave them
record of
money,
that.
and
Right.
then we had a banquet.
Right, and then they'll have a receipt for that and what was paid out.
Yeah, I don't,
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
policy is not going to say that.
well, there was something about banquets and on the.
No. But I mean, as far as that, where
This
that
just
14
says
bucks
that-
went, that's not dealt with here.
They'll have a receipt for that. It may funnel through.
It wasn't
maybe
run
not.
by,
They
it wasn't
may
run
come
by
out.
the booster, so it wouldn't be
Yep.
in this policy. I think that's what
Right.
Kelly's saying.
So the boosters would not be aware of the banquets that we're having.
Well, if,
It's not
if a
run by-
team goes out and has its own banquet
They
and
don't
it's
need
not
my
sponsored by the
approval.
boosters,
Right. You don't need my
then it
approval
falls
to have a
back to the
booster.
district.
district policy.
Somebody
Right.
should be
So
knowing about
your coach
it.
or your team parent or somebody like that.
Because
They don't
there are
need my
designee. If an
approval.
individual coach says, okay, parents, I want to have a banquet, by extension, I would want to know if I'm asked to investigate that, if one, did the athletic facilitator know? Two, did the principal know? I'm not going to ask, did the boosters know? I don't care. I hire the coach, not the boosters. So if someone comes to you and asks you as a parent for money for the Daniel Boone cross-country team to have a banquet, we own that as a district, not the boosters. That's on
Well,
us.
my interpretation was they were going to end up with the money
Why would you think that?
because
You
it
might.
would go through.
They might. It may
I don't
come
know,
through.
it
It may
could.
come through. Again, like I said to you, a lot of times they'll funnel through. It's
Through us.
through this to write a check. So
Well, then
yes,
they are
it may. It may
related.
come to me as a
There's a
deposit, and then I'll write a
relationship
check to out to the
Birdsboro
Birdsboro
Community.
Community Center with a receipt and permission from the coach. Yes.
So then it does go through.
So it could come through
Okay.
us, but nobody. you don't have to come to me or anybody on my board to
schedule a
say,
banquet.
do we have permission to have a banquet?
Well, I understand that, but like the money flow is what I'm looking at.
It
Where
could
does-
come through here, and if it comes through me and you need a check from our organization, it has to be matched up with a receipt and approval from that coach. There is a
So
form that they fill
It's
out,
still being managed by the district.
and it would still
It's being managed
come
by the
through.
district. No matter
So
what,
it
the
would
district
still,
employ, the district, the
Right,
district
it was
is the
still-
coach is the district.
Right.
And they're handling it.
exactly, somebody.
That whole
essentially
thing,
of the
that whole
district
thing smells so
approved
bad
that
to me.
funding.
It's not even funny.
Yep,
They just collected $14
yep.
of cash
because I paid
from,
But
yeah,
they'll have a receipt
You'll have
for
a
it.
receipt from
They'll
the
have a
community
receipt
center.
yeah.
from the community center, and
As
then
a
that'll be
whole,
traced,
but-
and then it'll go right through their system. So
It'll
nothing,
go
a
who-
check won't come through boosters. Nothing
Yeah.
would be cut without a receipt. So
No, I
they
understand. I'm
have to
not.
have a receipt.
Yeah, I understand. There's a receipt at that point.
Right.
So let's say they collected $1,000 from all these parents giving out $14, and then a check gets written
Right.
out for $700 back to the community center. Where'd the other $300 go? You know what I mean? It's just that whole process, and I'm not.
But that's-
I don't want to get out of this
It's
policy.
volunteer
That's a sport, that's a
whole other-
sport
Right.
That's
issue,
all
not
of
the booster.
Well, I was just wondering what the banquet part was on this, because it's not.
That is
Yeah.
that is a district issue.
There-
If the
there-
district
That's
is
a
ultimately
district-
responsible for that,
Right.
why is somebody collecting cash?
Yeah, you
And
have to
and-
check and it should be wrote out to,
Right.
The organization.
It's a different issue, but
Right.
that whole thing stinks.
I will
Right.
not.
Well, it's got the opportunity to.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure there would be, if you get a receipt from, I don't know, did you get food through Birthright? You brought food? They catered it. So there's probably an amount, we had 50 people. So I would imagine your receipt would say, 50 people, and then it would match up.
Food
Right,
was
divided
$12 a
by-
head plus rental
Right, I was
fees.
just-
Well, who's the
Right.
financial
Policy.
person behind all this?
Right, like how
Who
does
is
this
that
policy,
person?
when it had the banquet part on it,
Coach
Our
Vernon?
coach or a
think-
team
I think
parent,
that
It's the coach?
I think
I don't
that's a
know.
district.
or a team parent who is designated.
This just talks about recognizing,
Okay.
it doesn't talk about
They didn't go to
finances
them.
of
The coach said,
banquets.
"I'm gonna
She said,
have it."
'cause
If it's a coach, it's a really bad
No,
thing
this is
because
the
now
original.
it's our
That's what it says.
responsibility, and our coach could be
No, you can
stealing
look
money
at it.
from
It doesn't
parents.
have
That's
anything-
where I'm
Could be a
trying
team
to.
parent, and
Nothing
it's
of what we're
each
talking
of a
about now
volunteer
was even in the
organization.
original.
I know.
I don't think it's exclusive to sports or music or anybody. When you have volunteer organizations like this, you're going to have people who are
You have a
contracted
parent on the team that
collect.
want to have something great for the
Right.
kids, then they're
Right.
going to say, we're going to
Right.
have this fall, we're going to have this, everybody getting money, everybody's going to be happy. Then you're going
Right.
to have someone that's going to be a little naive and think, well, did he take money?
Well, you know,
And I understand, yeah.
And the only reason I care about it is because it's got our name behind it.
Right.
If you want to call it, hey, the parents of the kids, and you want to host a banquet as the parents of the kids, that's fine. But if you're hosting a banquet as the Daniel Boone something, and there's funny business going on,
Well, I think then you're going to have to go up to
who's
the
responsible for making sure that?
to the building principals and say, hey, if you want to have anything, they better come.
Well, no, and that's when, if the boosters are running a banquet, then I think they're saying they have those controls in place.
I absolutely agree.
Now we
I'm
don't.
absolutely comfortable with that.
But then maybe we need to be saying,
You need to get permission.
well, that's what that policy
yes,
does.
this one,
That clearly says that.
yeah, and plus it says no alcohol beverages or tobacco. If we have,
Well, we just felt that was a given, that you didn't have to you
Well,
didn't have to
that's
say
under
it.
district policy,
It
you
could be
don't
there
have
if you
alcohol.
want it. Yeah.
I just think it
don't see any-
reinforces that when you go on a golfing club, that kids, and supposedly kids might be serving alcohol, that they shouldn't be allowed to do that. It just reinforces that it's
Well,
not
that's
allowed.
illegal. It's illegal for kids. Anybody under 18 cannot, that is illegal.
Can't serve alcohol.
Yeah,
So you don't
Plus,
have to
if it-
mandate that. That's a law.
yeah, but
Plus,
Yeah,
if the
but I
kids are
think
going
the
to.
So
issue
is
comes up though,
driving 60
didn't the
or 50.
football team do a golf outing, like Blackwood Golf Course, and, kids are drinking beer, that was going on?
I don't know, they weren't drinking it, they were carting it around.
The last one?
No.
This was
Because
two
I
years
was
ago.
there, and I can tell you that beer was supervised by an adult
Yeah.
at all times.
When
I was physically there
Vidal was
myself.
having his golf tournament, there was Goose or someone, an adult,
Yes.
was riding in the cart with the student. When there was a student in the cart, but there was an adult with that person with the cart with the beverages in it at all times.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
I mean,
Adult with
It was
the-
not-
I'm
it was
glad
not-
we're having the conversation. I kind of looked at the banquet thing and said, I didn't know whether we'd want to segregate between, if we are going to include this in the policy? Do we need to distinguish between on-campus and off-campus events? Do we need to distinguish between like a student fundraiser and, let's say, an adult fundraiser? I know with private schools, fundraisers are done all the time off-campus at country clubs and other places, silent auctions and things of that nature where alcohol is served and a lot of money is raised. And,
But
I think that's a policy in itself.
Fundraiser, not banquet?
Yeah, that,
What's that?
Well, so this policy right here talks about banquets and recognitions. That would be different from a fundraiser like you're speaking about. So it wouldn't actually
Well,
be
no,
covered.
I don't know. I don't know whether that falls under banquet or not.
Before we changed it.
I really don't think that's fair.
I mean, if you want it in here about banquets, then leave it.
I mean,
I don't
think
see
there
anything
should be
offensive
something
about
banquet, but I don't.
it.
Yeah, banquets are different than the fundraiser that they were talking
Yeah.
about. That's something totally different. It's one's
purposes.
off-site district, and it's not for in recognition of Danny Boone students or something like that. It's different.
Yeah. Well, all right. I guess I don't know whether we want to move, whether that's a whole different issue that does not need to be in the policy or not. I don't know whether we need to look at this and keep it in here, this whole thing about banquets and recognitions, or, basically we just say, hey, look, I like the last two paragraphs here I thought were pretty good, which just said the Brewster Support Organization planning a recognition event shall request permission of the building principal to conduct such an event and shall clear the date for the event with the building principal.
And that pretty much, I think, happens already.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you're reiterating it as part of the policy, correct?
Right.
That's what the policy is. And
Right.
it says each booster support organization, including non-booster support athletic organizations, shall follow the PIAA, guidelines when giving gifts to students.
Right.
I don't think anybody would have any objection to having that as part of the policy, right?
Those last two, no, not at all. They're
I don't have any objections to the other two. If you want them in there, I think it's
have
fine.
only
I don't-
paragraph 6.
Yeah,
so we can just reinsert all of 6.
sure. I mean, if you're having it, then you should follow the school rules, and there's no reason for alcoholic beverages or tobacco to be present. I think that's kind of a no-brainer.
For a
For a
banquet,
banquet or recognition, right?
for
more than
recognition.
recognition. Yeah,
Right,
like
right.
that
for in
shouldn't
the
be-
school or yeah.
Right, that shouldn't be part of that.
All right, 6 is back in then.
okay, moving on. Anybody?
Let's see. There's this whole finance and reporting, games of chance. I see all that was taken out. I don't know whether that applies or doesn't apply.
We didn't take that out, though. I think it's missing a page.
Yeah, I think, honestly now, I think this
Yeah, I don't even.
number eight we agreed to keep in on the games of chance. I think Sandy, when she culled this, accidentally cut out a page.
Yeah,
I think she missed a page, that's all.
So, Andrew, that guidelines on games of chance, I think really needs to stay in there. That was probably just a typo.
Well, and this other one says here, 7 says that they're going to follow, appropriate accounting procedures and.
Yep.
Yeah, there was no disagreement on that one. I think a page got left out.
Okay. On that page, there was also number 9, which said agreed to abide by the following guidelines on advertising. Do we just need to? I don't know whether that stays in or out. What the discussion was with that. If it's in,
I think we said that one was. We didn't think that needed any change either.
I think the only thing that we felt that applied to would be like the football program. And if you want approval for that, we'll just send it to you. It's not a problem.
The only thing I was thinking of in terms of that number 9 was, do we want to reference? I think there should be a reference in there to our existing advertising policy,
Okay.
right? Because we have a policy on advertising.
That's where I was like,
Yeah, but there's clearly a page missing here. I didn't realize that happened.
We did change the last sentence on this page about annual meetings.
Yes. Well, that's back in here. That's in this new one now. Oh, no, she missed that page, too. She
Yeah, I
missed
think
this
she
whole
just missed
page.
that whole entire page.
Okay, so go ahead.
Let's see.
What's your
Is
question,
that
Lynn?
back in?
My question.
I was a comment.
Annual.
The annual
Are we
meeting
on to-
statement.
Oh, sorry.
We'll add that whole page back in and then redistribute the changes.
Okay, so we're back on. Annual meeting is in.
Yes. Except we changed one sentence. Lynn, what were you going to say?
Oh, that's what I said. That we kept that in. We just changed the last sentence. So after we update it, it'll be in there, and we can revisit them. But
Yeah, the sentence read, the last sentence was revised to say, the purpose of this meeting will be to share ideas, discuss ideas that arise during the school year. And what else did we add there?
we changed it to the purpose for the meeting will be to provide a report to the district regarding the previous year's activities. That's what my notes were.
I didn't write.
Right, you're right.
On my,
Because,
You also want to. Is it not also the purpose of the annual meeting to kind of talk about what's coming up in the coming year?
yes.
Okay.
Because I remember now, and it also said, and to preview the current, the new year. Something got lost here when Sandy put this together. I'll have to backtrack on that. There's a lot of typographical movement on this policy.
The only other comment I had on this was I just had, sort of in the sideline here, I didn't see any references, throughout the body of this policy referring to any kind of law, and I don't know if there's any law out there.
There isn't. The school
Okay, so
code section.
There's no areas of law that pertain to the financial reporting of 503Cs.
Not as it relates to school districts.
Okay.
But the reference that's in here, the 24 PS section 510, that's the school code that gives districts the ability to make any rules at the local level that it thinks it needs to efficiently run its organization. It's a very broad scope law.
Okay.
And the thing on games of chance, that's Pennsylvania law that I'm not even aware of, so I'm just going to trust that citation is correct.
yeah, we have a license, the small games of chance
Right.
license, and you have one.
So we'll make sure Brian reviews that at the time that this would get approved to make sure that citation is correct. I'm just making an assumption now that that's the correct legal citation. So those are the only two that you really need. Anything else in here is open. That's why we're having this long conversation, because it really is open to local interpretation and local decision.
Okay. Let's see.
So long as it doesn't violate anything that's constitutional. So there's a lot of revision here.
The only other thing that changed was there was a paragraph that said compliance that was below disband and cease to operate. You have that paragraph. And then
Yes, we just took out that one paragraph.
because it was already written previously, I thought was our rationale.
Right, because you were already approving us, and so therefore, if we abided by all the law, by all these regulations, then
We did leave in the violation part. We just took out the first paragraph.
do we need, I'm just asking the question, is there a process that needs to be included in here in terms of violation or compliance? Like, these are the steps that will be followed versus the superintendent, and then there's a board review or some other type of thing, just so that there's a...
You
just
could,
like with any other,
again,
just like with any other disciplinary type of thing, we have a
A way to rectify?
administrative guideline that goes into place.
right. That's again, this policy is outside of, breaking any laws, is totally the board's discretion. So,
I just wasn't sure whether there should be some sort of due process, right? I mean, what you don't want to have happen is, who knows? I mean, some sort of issue comes up, and you get 5 board members who say, you know what, kick them off. We don't want the boosters anymore. They're out. But there's no due process, right?
Let me offer a suggestion. If you go back to that original paragraph, you could leave that wording, and let me just read it out loud. Should any situation emerge between a booster support organization and the school, the superintendent shall resolve the issue within the established guidelines or board policy. Failure to resolve it at the superintendent level will result in a board review of the situation. I mean, that would be your due process. Superintendent gets the first crack, and then if that doesn't resolve it, it comes to the board.
How's that any different than 5 board members saying, kick them out?
Because your superintendent at the first level might not say that, and it might not ever come to you. But you would always have the right, the superintendent would be reporting to you what they did, and then you could say, hey, no, wait a minute, that's not enough. We want to take this action. And then you only need 5 votes to say, hey, sorry, superintendent, we're going this way.
So are you looking at adding like a probationary period or something like that? Is that what you're thinking?
No, I'm just thinking out of the box in terms of, not that this would ever happen, but should there be any sort of due process language in here? That, hey, look, if there's a problem, everybody agrees to get to the table and try to solve it before some sort of unilateral action is taken. You see what I'm saying? And that there's a right for some sort of, for voices to be heard on the issue, as opposed to, some people just saying, look, what, I don't like what XYZ is doing, so, there's 5 of us that are in agreement, XYZ is gone, we're going to revoke their status and they're out. And that's the end of it.
Like some kind of cure period of a violation, something along those lines, where you have an opportunity to cure.
And there's a cooling off period, or I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there on the table. The problem is, like I said, personalities change, and the board changes every 2 years.
So you want to lay out steps for the violation occur?
But even
Brewster's leadership changes as well, and there may be a situation that arises where you have personality conflicts, and the last thing you want to have happen is, a relationship that's been built over years disintegrates within months because people just aren't getting along. And if you create a situation or a policy that forces those organizations to sit down and work it out, as opposed to just going their separate ways, that might be in the best interest of the community at large.
I think, going back to your scenario, though, if you had that 5 board members who felt that a certain booster organization would be gone, they wouldn't need to do this. They would just wait to the August sanctioning and then not sanction them. And there would be no reason that they'd have to give per the policy for not sanctioning them. So they would do away with them at that time.
Yeah. I was just trying to think of some sort of...
I think the public outcry...
There's ways around the system, huh?
Right. Just try and, take those sports boosters and music boosters off or the PTC or something. And I think the public outcry would quell that issue. And that would be pretty ugly, I think.
You see, I've seen crazier things. Look at Owen J. Roberts. I mean, look what that board did over there with, it was a different issue, but you had the public screaming at these people, don't do this. And I think it was like they fired their superintendent.
Yeah, they fired a superintendent after the board had just renewed them or something.
Right, and then ended up paying 2 contracts at the same time.
And then she sued the district, and they lost a lot of money.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's much ado not nothing. I don't. Let's just ignore it. I just was trying to think. I didn't want something arbitrary happening that would. I think people need to sit down and try to work things out, and you don't want ego or personality getting in the way of a good relationship that serves the community very well.
Well, I think you could implement some type of corrective action request, where if there's an issue that comes up, here's the issue. Tell me what your action is to resolve that issue. And there would be some metrics that I don't even know how, what the issue would be, but just the same as any other, teacher.
Well,
You're going to have to meet these certain criteria.
Let me throw this out in terms of management of the district. It would seem to me that the board would want the superintendent to, quote, in a big picture, manage the school district. So leaving this statement the way it is and just saying, for example, should any situation emerge between a booster and support organization and the school, I really would think you would want your superintendent to have the first crack at it before it really gets to the board level, to not have to bother the board with it.
Yep.
But maybe if you put in the superintendent shall resolve the issue or the superintendent in consultation with the board, so that there's this communication thing, shall resolve the issue within the established guidelines and board policy. The superintendent's hands are tied by board policy. Can't do anything that's outside of board policy in this compliance area. So maybe that simple wording would help solve that problem. I don't know. Just a thought.
Why don't you try to wordsmith something there, and we'll take a look at it.
Yeah. Let me.
I mean, the more I'm thinking about it, I think this might be much ado about nothing. So I'm almost apologetic for even raising it.
Yeah, I think
it's part of the discussion.
if you have 5 people that object to one of the organizations, they're going to get them at the sanctioning anyway. And they don't have to provide a reason for the policy.
Right.
Well, I think
Right.
the concerns that'll be arise will then come to the superintendent, which then, at that point, I think then, could that be overturned?
No, the board has the right to overturn anything a superintendent
Well,
does.
or a superintendent overturn what a board decides.
Well, I don't think the superintendent anywhere has the right to overturn what the board wills.
Based on an organization such as this, I mean, this is.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, yeah, maybe it is much. Maybe I agree with Andrew now. It is much ado about nothing. I'm just saying. Let me take a crack at putting some wording in. I'll even talk to Brian Subers about it. See if he has.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not that passionate about it. I don't know how anybody else feels.
No, that's why we took it out. I mean, last week.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with that.
All right, then it's out. After all that, it's out. All right, so there were 2 sections left. Disband and cease to operate. We all kind of like that, to make sure that the money would go into a trust, and if a new booster organization would come back in, that money would be given back to them. That's what
I think that makes sense.
That's what the intent of that was, and
talked about
the other stuff is all kind of routine. So there's a lot of revisions here I still think it's an important policy.
Well, I just, let me editorialize a little quick. I just want to thank, Kelly and Lynn and I don't know if
Scott was there last week too.
And PTC was
Yeah, I mean-
there
And
last
PTC was there, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to thank y'all for taking the time to sit down with us and go through this with us, because it is important, and it is going to take a long time to get through it, and it's worthwhile, and I really appreciate you guys putting the effort in.
Well, thank you for including us. We appreciate that.
Yes. We do.
So I took copious notes. I will do my best to rebuild this puzzle that it is and get it out to everybody.
Thank you.
Hey, Mike,
Try to get
did
done for
we
the next
address all
policy
the
meeting.
things that you raised?
Yeah,
The questions that you had?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, I don't have my notes in front of me, but as far as not limiting the.
Yeah, that parent thing was taken
Yeah,
out.
we have a hard enough time getting volunteers to do.
There must be a
so-
reason York Suburban
Yeah.
did that. I don't know what it was.
Well, right, unless they had some, they wanted to squeeze money and not want to, I don't know.
Right.
I couldn't even imagine why you would want to do that.
Right.
And then delineate between the functions that you're having on site and on campus and off campus, what those are. So, I can't remember I think it was most other.
I think we
questions.
answered all your other
I think it was
ones.
just questions
Yeah.
of how this would be interpreted.
Yeah.
I think Dr. Otto brought all those up.
Yeah, I brought your question. As a matter of fact,
Yeah, I'm sorry, can't be in 2 places.
Because I asked Dr. Otto that.
yeah, he asked me last week. I don't have
That's
those.
okay. It's all right. I can't recall. I think the big ones that I heard discussed tonight. So
Yes, we did address your questions. I just don't have them here.
that's all right.
Okay, I think we wrapped up with that policy.
An hour, 2 hours, and 10 minutes later. That's good.
All right.
That needed to happen. This is a big step for the district, and again, even though quote, I won't be here to see it through, it'll be a good thing for the district, I think.
Well, let's see if we can get through the rest of the agenda.
Okay.
Thank you all so much for